And you got, so we don't see ourselves there. Oh, we do.
There you go.
And you're where?
Now you're live.
Am I looking that way?
Now we're live. Hey,
Oh, there it
Henry
is.
McClure live.
Okay, Debbie Potter.
Yes, Debbie.
Hey,
So I've been running into all your school board members
Uh-oh.
at Julie's Coffee
Okay.
at 9th and Kansas.
Okay, I've been at Julie's Coffee too.
I'm always there.
Oh,
So
I gotta pick you up.
you're on the state school board.
Yes.
Just to remind everybody, and we're filming right there.
Yes.
And just make yourself at home. You've been on the show.
Sure, I've done once.
Yeah, but you're a pro. Now you had a friend with you too last time.
No.
Didn't
No,
you?
no.
When you were running?
Oh, well, I don't think she was here though.
Yeah.
I had friends come with me. I don't know. Not when I was sitting with you though, I was alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she was in the room.
I don't think so. But I don't know. I've slept since then.
Oh.
I'm not worried about it.
Well, tell me about being on the school board. What's it like so far?
State Board of Education, nothing like I expected. I don't know, it's kind of tough. I'm kind of tired after
You're
2
weary.
full days of meetings and stuff
You're a
like
little
that.
weary, and you got to go to
A little
Lincoln.
bit, and I've got to go to Lincoln back. I'm a little bit, yesterday was just like, oh, yay, just a nice, easy day. I didn't feel like there was any blah. And then today was like, blah. So I hate those days, but
Well,
I think they have to be a part of it because, so I think I told you, my thought going into running for this position was that I was so unhappy with the shenanigans of the 2020 election. And I
Okay.
was praying about it, and I was
So-
like, okay, God, I feel like we're in a culture war, and I want to be a part of this culture war.
There is nothing wrong with saying that you don't believe the election was fair.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just say shenanigans because it's so encompassing. All the areas that
Well, so much stuff has come out on the national level.
Yeah.
And do you know Doug Billings?
I know the name.
He is running for governor.
Oh, that's why I know the name. Okay. Yeah, I'm not very political.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong, and that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's supposed to be the American way.
Right. Well, I tell you,
Did I tell you I'm running for mayor?
no. Actually, though, I think I heard somebody else tell me that you were. I
In
think
vain?
Maybe Ben.
Oh, Ben?
Yeah, I think maybe Ben.
I like
did.
that.
Yeah. He was one of the people God used right off for me because like I said, I prayed about it and I felt like God's, I was a broker, real estate broker. And so I really thought
Really? We don't talk about that.
Well, we haven't, I don't think, but so what was really hard in my heart was personal property rights. And so when I was praying, okay, God, I want to be in this culture battle. Of course, there's so many fronts, right? And I just felt like it was clear as day. I don't like hear the word God, voice in my head or anything, but I felt it really strong. Look out after the kids. And I thought, okay, I don't know what that means. How do I do that? And I thought, I don't have any kids in our local school anymore, and my kids are all grown, and I thought, but I do have a lot of grandkids in the State Board of Education, I'll try that. Literally, that's how much thought went into it. And then I looked up who our current State Board of Education person was, sat down and had breakfast with him, because I said, hey, I see that you've been in the job for a long time, and I don't know how politics work on, but do you have somewhere bigger and better to go? And would you mind if I stepped into this seat? Because I want to join the culture battle. And he said he'd been waiting for somebody to take his place.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so he stepped
So
aside.
it was all friendly.
It was very friendly until I called him out on, I said, in December of 2023, I said, it was after the meeting, and Susan was with me that visit, and she's the one who actually found it, and I told him, I said, oh my word, you guys are just being pushed around. You weren't given all the information. You just voted in DEI.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think that is the foundation of discrimination. But go ahead.
Right, I had lost, I don't think anybody really has a lot of trust of any government entity, right? But
I'm okay with that.
yeah, the Department of Education, I wouldn't have said, oh, I trust them. But I didn't distrust them. They were just the Department of Education, But in December of 2023, when that happened, and I saw them, by omission, not give information that voters would care, I cared about, voters would care about, I knew they would, and the board members should care about. They were not given that information, and they were asked to vote to approve spending money on a company that said that our curriculum is too white.
Too white?
Too white. Yeah. That's our curriculum is too white. And I was like, okay,
Well,
you're going straight to DEI there.
I don't get that. How could like, I'm reading a book right now, and I can't tell you what color the author is.
Right. Or the curriculum.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I have friends from all ethnic backgrounds, and they're like, what does too white mean? They didn't even know what I mean, and you can perceive what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, culturally, America is diverse, and you're not representing all the diversity in your curriculum. But the reality is that, so we hired and contracted a company that is new teacher training, that their underpinning is that our curriculum is too white, but we don't pick curriculum. The local board does. So you would like to think that whatever curriculum your local board's choosing reflects your school community. Whatever
Fair
it
enough.
is. Whatever it is, right? And so, but at the state level, we were giving new teacher training that our curriculum is too white. And that's TNTP. The Sentinel.
Now, what's TNTP?
TNTP was the new teacher training that they contracted. Okay. And the Sentinel wrote an article on it. But when I went up to Mr. McNeese at that point in time and said, oh my word, you guys just voted in a curriculum, a new teacher training that says our curriculum is too white. He goes, well, I didn't know that. And I said, no, I know, because they didn't tell you. And it's just, that's the way business runs up there. You're supposed to be just informed by the Department of Education. They are your staff, and they're informing you, and you should trust them. And now I have to say the current chair, and we do have our differences, we're having our conflicts, but the reality is that they have done something that was majorly important to me, and they have...
Good or bad?
Good. Very good, because what I was seeing in the 4 or 5 years I was sitting up there, because I'd come up here and just watch the meetings, and because I thought I was going to walk right on, because Jim said he ran unopposed, and I ended up having a lot of opposition, but I would come up here and just study for the job, and I mean, I'm losing track of what I was even saying about
right.
Kathy, but our chair. So one of the things that she has changed as the chair is, it used to be, when I was watching them, they would literally receive the item and act on it. So they would hear about TNTP and vote on it in the same meeting. Whereas now, we have pretty much the assurance. They've adjusted it, so now when we get that item on we might still only be getting one side. That hasn't changed. But we're getting the information this month, and we're not going to act on it until next month. So that gives us a month for our constituents and for us to do that homework and check and, and then have the conversation a month from now. So it's better than it was. And
Can we slow down for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
No,
thank you for
I
having me.
appreciate it. I really enjoyed the people that come on my show. No, it's fun.
Thank you.
It was so important.
Well, the board doesn't enjoy me very much, so it's nice to be enjoyed.
Well, that's
for
good.
a
You're
little
probably
moment
doing
going
a
out
great
to
job.
It's hard. It's hard when you're,
A rookie?
No, actually, I'm a rookie in the education issues field. I've got brilliant constituents, and I rely heavily on them. I'm building teams.
Good.
Teams for, these parents are into bullying, these parents are into this, or these parents are into the finances, whatever. I'm building teams because I just don't know all that stuff. What I do know is how to run a meeting, and I know parliamentary procedure. And I'm telling you
Robert's rules, baby.
And you know what? They will not follow Robert's rules. Now they'll say we roughly follow Robert's rules, which means that we follow policy, but we don't necessarily follow policy if the board doesn't want to.
You know, from an educational standpoint, and talking about Robert's rules, if you saw the chairman eating food during the meeting, what would you think?
Well, we all were eating at lunch today.
Oh, man.
Sorry, that's a bad, we were, it was a presentation. It was a presentation, but I tell
Okay,
you
but
what,
that's
it's a long
different.
2
It was
days.
for everybody.
It's a
Everybody
long 2 days. I
was
would
provided food.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And I actually was a little awkward with that because I'm really huge into the people out in the audience, and I didn't want to eat in front of them. Like my sandwich is still in my bag. Actually, I forgot it in the car in the heat. Oh well. No,
You can eat on my show.
It'll be a melted sandwich when I get out there. I ate because I was shaking and I was hungry.
Yeah, you
but
need
I wasn't going to sit there and chow down on a sandwich because I don't know. It's just not the way I was raised, maybe. But I just had a hard time eating in front of that audience, and like I put up coffee and take it down each meeting, and that's something that's a big deal to me. And I asked him in the orientation, I said, hey, can we get an allowance to have coffee provided, because I want to bring in those local school board members, I want to bring in my constituents, and I want them to have something hot to drink when they come here. And I was told we don't have that kind of money in the budget.
Well, next
That's what I
time I'll
told
buy
him.
him coffee at Julie's Coffee
I
before
have
they
a coffee
go.
maker. I have a Keurig up there now, and I have people who bring me little Keurig cups, and I've got a kettle for tea, and I've got cocoa. So it's not a
Oh, so
lot.
do you actually have an office while you're there too?
No, but they gave me a cupboard to store it in.
Okay.
Yeah. So but it's my stuff, and you know, the fact that they would tell me, you know, that they don't have the money to provide coffee for our guests bothered me, and so I mean I just do it on my own, and so we'll see if they. You would think
Coffee's
they
good
should.
for you.
No doubt. I live on it, but I don't know. I've had
So
a
let
really
me
great meeting
ask you-
up until the last maybe 2 hours, so it's a little
Well, you
hard.
said, can I say that something about the lawyers, or is that not? You said lawyers wanted to talk to you in my text.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, well,
Is that not for the show?
probably not. It was more because, well, I'll say this part. I have a different point of view than is traditional to the board, and that is probably the point of view of other board members, maybe some, maybe not. I don't know what the other board members all think. I do know I've had one board member tell me that they do not agree with me on my interpretation of our constitutional duty. And so,
As board members?
As board members.
Huh.
So, you know, when you have a lawyer telling you, well, don't
Now,
think
is
you're
the
interpreting
lawyer-
things correctly.
Is the
That's a
lawyer
little
taking
intimidating.
the other person's side, and they're trying to correct you?
Yeah, and so I don't
So-
agree. I don't
well,
agree, and I
so-
don't think I should have to agree, because I interpret things my way, and I ran on this. I ran on empowering parents, and I realized really quick that the only way to empower parents is to empower their local school boards. And he says, and I'll tell you this, he said, that's not your job. It's not your job to empower the local school boards. And I'm like, well, okay, but I think that I do empower
Well, then
them.
what the hell
And they
is
can
so-
talk to me, and if I can help them, I'll help them. I don't,
So let me ask you, is there like a set of rules for you to be a school board member?
the policies,
The policies.
and so that's going to
So
be.
could we take all the policies of the school board, run them through AI, and then run the Constitution through AI, and see
Only if you want to cause Danny to have a heart attack.
who's Danny?
Danny, he's a
The
good
lawyer?
guy. No.
Is he the little fella that?
No,
will speak,
Danny's one of the other board members, and that's just his pet.
There was a
He doesn't
there
like
was a
AI.
little fella today, and he kept quoting the Bible, and it was beautiful what he was talking about. He told me to come down to the next board meeting and sit in the peanut gallery.
Uh-huh.
I like this guy.
Yeah. So the only board member I could think of that would quote scripture that's a man, and he's a board member, would be Dennis, and he is a good guy.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the sad thing. I actually think I like every one of the board members, honestly, in their own way. The chair and I have a lot of conflict, and I'm
Robust.
To be frank, well, no, to be frank, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure where the motivations are coming from. I don't know where the conflict is coming from, because I have known this person for, since they got on the board.
So do you go point of order?
Well, I try. I haven't,
Does the chair,
prevailed in a point of order yet. I've appealed to the board like 3 times now. And because what it is if the policy says...
so they're not running the board meetings right in front of you?
Yeah, I try to, that's what I care. Sometimes what I really try to focus on is just make things get said out loud. Then you can just look at it and you can say, Debbie, you're out to lunch. Or you can say, no, Debbie's on target and they're all out to lunch. But it's usually, today I was utterly alone.
Oh, wow.
And I don't like that. Because if I have at least 2 people who are like, we can lose a vote. You know what I'm saying? You can lose a vote and you can be right and lose a vote. But when you're the only one, you start to think, is it worth even standing up and saying anything? Because if the board doesn't see things that way, if the board policy says, like today, it said if you create a committee, you have to vote on it. The board has to vote on creating the committee, and they have to have a discussion how the committee's set up. So I made a point of order because we didn't vote on it. And I was told no. So I appealed to the board. So
But
this
did the
time,
committee get created?
yes. Well, actually, they redefined it because now it's a task force. And here's the funny thing.
You don't have to vote on the task force.
Guess what was we were on the agenda in the committee report section.
Right.
Okay? The paper said we were forming a committee. But when I pushed it that, hey, I'm on this local school board for the School for the Deaf and the School for the Blind. We are the local school board. And this is, you can see it, it's all on the video, but I pushed back because I have always had a strong interest in the School for the Deaf. I homeschooled my youngest 3 through high school, and, well, part of high school for that one and most of high school for my twins. But all 3 of them, their foreign language was sign language, ASL. And so I got to visit the School for the Deaf, so I've been really excited to be a part of their local board, and I want to be involved, and I want to get to know the parents. I actually attended one of the meetings that was over there that none of the other board members left the retreat to go to, only I did. And I met parents that way. I was wearing my t-shirt, my jackrabbits, I mean, I'm excited. And they said, well, we're going to form this committee with these people, not Debbie. And I was like, okay, wait, hang on.
You mean the other board members?
They-
or just people at random?
Three board members were chosen,
Okay.
not Debbie. And I said,
And it was your idea?
no,
Oh.
it was not my idea. But I knew about it,
But you wanted to be on it?
and I wanted to be on it.
Oh.
And they said no. So, I'm sorry. I have a smile on my face, but I'm feeling kind of sad because and not only was I not allowed to, I was not chosen to be on it, but I couldn't even force myself onto it. I couldn't even say, hey, well, I am on their
But
local
can
school
you
board.
attend to it? I mean, can you attend the meeting anyway?
They were pushing back a little on that, but they did get it pinned down that they will have Zoom
Well, is it
available.
open to the public?
It's open to, that is only why I can attend. I'll have no voice. As a local board member, I will have no voice on that task force. No vote, no voice, no nothing. I'm just there to,
So you feel like you're getting kicked to the curb?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, and I am a tough pill to swallow, and I've been acknowledging that for a while. But
I tell that to my viewers every day.
well, thank you, I'm not alone.
No.
That feels good.
You're in great company.
I know, you guys are. And that's the thing. I go home And this is the first time I thought, oh, I'm going to go home and I'm going to be on a high because I didn't have any conflict. This was a great meeting. You know, no conflict. I felt like God, honestly, in February, I was like, oh, my word, we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order. Now, I was told in orientation that we follow Robert's Rules of Order. And I took a screen, it took me half a day, but I went and found it, took a picture of it, and sent it to the current chair. That it says we follow Robert's Rules of Order. Of course, policy will trump that, right? If policy is in conflict with your Robert's Rules, you're going to follow your policy, because that was voted on directly by the board. But, so that was a surprise to me. I learned by February that we don't have that.
But policy can't change how the chair reacts to a point of order.
Oh, it can.
It shouldn't.
Well, if they don't follow Robert's Rules of Order. A point of order is Robert's Rules of Order. If
Yeah,
you don't
I know,
follow
but-
Robert's Rules of Order.
But there can't be you're telling me there's a policy that we only follow Robert's Rules of Orders when we want to?
No,
Okay.
they have their policy manual. Right here.
Yeah.
I keep it with me. Because, well.
Is that online?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is on the KSDE website. I do have a local board member who told me she made a point of order and was told, sorry, we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order, and she was not listened to. So I'm telling this is, as I understand it from some of my local board members, they said that they are being trained through the training that they get not to have Robert's Rules of Order.
So, this is odd.
I think it's odd too.
Okay. So, let's say, isn't every state organization supposed to follow, I mean, isn't it a state law?
No,
No?
I don't think so.
We're going to find out.
Well, yeah, I honestly,
I don't want to get that lawyer.
I think, well, okay, I think the Kansas legislature and the Kansas Senate follow two different parliamentary procedures. So there are different parliamentary procedures that you can follow, but I've never been a part of an organization that didn't have an underpinning. Actually, all the organizations I've been in have all had the underpinning of Robert's Rules of Order. Now, sometimes your organization might have additional rules, correct, like policies or bylaws or something like that. And so what happens in those is they'll say, well, we follow the bylaws, and where the bylaws are silent, we fall on Robert's Rules of Order in this case, okay? We don't have that. We have our policy, and then what we've had being said over and over in the meetings, which is confusing to me. And it's confusing to me because they say we follow a rough version of Robert's Rules of Order. So, I don't know, I guess what they're saying is they think our policy follows a rough version of Robert's Rules of Order, and it does have the ability to make some motions and stuff like that, but I don't even understand the distrust, because like yesterday, it wasn't even anything contentious or anything, but there was a motion, and then somebody made a motion to amend it. And so when we took the vote on the motion to amend, they were like, done. And I was like, wait, stop.
No, you
gotta vote on the motion.
The motion.
Yes, and that's like so basic, but it was.
Because then you gotta have discussion.
But guess what? Nobody running the meeting caught that. And I'm trying to say, well, no, wait a minute. I wouldn't have necessarily voted the way I voted on the main motion. I was voting on the amendment. And it was like, I was told, no, that's done. And now they came back and kind of corrected it today, but what was weird is that without the discussion, without being in the moment, at least one member changed their vote. So it was weird. The outcome was the same, but it was all weird.
Do you know how unfathomable this is for me? That this is going on at our state.
We're the educators. We're supposed to be like, oh, it's still educating. Yeah, I didn't have a class of Robert's
Okay,
Rules
my
of Order. I
head's
wish
about
now I
ready
had.
to explode. I gave a copy to our mayor. I took it over to his house for Christmas last year, so he could run the meeting to Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes, because I mean it's the only way that you make sure all the voices are heard. That the conversation happening at that table. I know that, like, I know what areas I have a minority opinion on. You know, I'm going to vote my minority opinion, I'm going to lose, and that's the way it goes, right?
My head's going to explode over
But-
this show.
Well, I tell you what, I did feel like in February, and this is really weird, because I've been through some things in life, and I don't know that I've really ever felt like God has impressed, like compelled me, like I'm feeling compelled right now. And I think it's because I don't mind standing up and saying, this is what I think is right, and I'm passionate about it, and I'm going to stand firm on
Can I
this.
talk about compelling for a second?
Sure.
As it fits my life? Because I felt compelled to run for mayor. I
Mhm.
really did. I feel like Topeka is drowning,
Right.
and Topeka is in debt, Topeka's broke, Topeka's doing the wrong thing, and I felt compelled to be a voice.
Yes. And I think that it's a little bit different in that I felt compelled from my own person, because I have my convictions and I can be very strong. But this, I almost felt like I was being compelled against my will. Okay?
You mean the energy of God forcing you to do
Yeah,
it?
telling me, I
Get in there,
really
baby.
want you to do
Keep
this.
fighting.
And because, so my husband has a saying for me.
Tell me.
The thing about being dead right is you're dead all the same.
Do what?
The thing about being dead right, you're dead all the same.
Oh, that's right.
And I think I've said that one to you before. Because,
I like that.
Yeah, but that's kind of, I think it's even on my Facebook. It is something that I can tend to be. But this time, I don't think I really felt like being dead right. And I just was like, I didn't see a use in it. I felt like God was compelling me. They do not know how to run a meeting.
This is
In a
all
way.
you do. Lord rebuke you.
Yeah, well, I think that's what I was feeling like. You need to show how they're acting. And again, I talked to you about the system. Remember, I called it the system, name it a
Yes,
name.
yes.
The system. And I've told people, I said since then, I said, stick every board member on that State Board of Education and the commissioner all together in a bus, drive us over a cliff. I said, you'll vote in new board members, you'll get a new commissioner, and the system will still be there. Okay? So this is bigger
The
than us.
bureaucrats.
Yes, the administrative
The
state.
administrative state.
And so that is intimidating to stand up against the administrative state when you don't feel that your other board members have your back.
So,
And I
you know what I
really
think?
am struggling with that right now.
So,
Yeah.
Robert's Rules of Order is the only way to get above the administration.
Yes, because the board is more powerful than the system.
Right.
Not Debbie.
But
not
at that
district
moment-
chair, not even the chair. The chair, the vice chair, any given number of those board members are not more powerful than the system. The system will play them like a fiddle.
Oh, man.
That fast. But you know what? And right now, we don't even have a majority. I thought we were going to flip the board. We've not flipped anything. There is nothing flipped about our board. Not anything flipped about our board. And that's the sad thing to me, because we have 7 Republicans. One, I'll just call it, one is a rhino.
Right?
And then we have, if push comes to
Isn't
shove,
Connie a Trumpster?
Connie's like one of my strongest people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got to know her over
yeah.
when I was running for county commission.
Yeah,
I like her.
Connie's a strong
I
person.
put up signs
Actually,
for her.
Danny's a strong person. Dennis is a strong person. Michelle's a strong person. Connie, of
But
course.
you're still a minority.
But we're always on any given thing, especially if we're pushing back on the system. If we're pushing back on the system, I might be the only one in a vote. Because even the ones, like, if it comes down to, like, we had a vote on health standards, blah, 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 whatever. Actually, did we even have a vote on it? I know, we just had a great conversation. But we had a vote on something that you can count on your conservatives for, if something comes up on health standards, they're probably going to be conservative on that, okay? So and maybe we flipped
Now,
that
what part of
portion.
health standards?
So what was being
Like
talked
school
about,
nurses or food?
no, what was being talked about was the video requirement that just got passed in the legislature, that they're required to, the local school boards are required to incorporate into their curriculum a 3-minute video, high resolution. I don't have all the words right in front of me, but basically high resolution, and it shows the development of the baby in utero.
Okay, just to show the truth.
Yeah, heaven forbid, right? That, I mean, we had to have it on the agenda. This was very distressing. So what, and what was confusing, I almost need to go back and watch it, because we have agenda reviews when we're preparing, and Danny had sent out what I thought was just sex education standards, right? And it was Kansas ones, and I had printed it off, and I had gone through and I thought, okay, these are the areas where I feel like that video would apply. In case that came up in the meeting, I've already marked it, right? And that was like in April timeframe. And then I didn't get to talk to him about it April, and then May, the May meeting. Then since then, while we were preparing for this meeting and it was on the agenda, I had sent out for me, and I hope I have this one right, but I'm pretty sure it was a commissioner who sent out the national health standards for us, okay?
Now, a commissioner.
The commissioner, Randy Watson,
Okay.
Dr. Watson.
So a commissioner of what?
He's our commissioner. So like local boards have their superintendents, the state board has its commissioner.
Okay. Now, is the commissioner like is he voted on, or, I mean, is he elected, or is he like the administrator?
You know, he's the head
I mean, are you
administrator.
called a commissioner?
No,
Okay.
no, he is the head administrative person for the Department of Education.
Okay.
And
And
to
he
be frank,
reports to the board?
he's been there for longer than I've ever been attending board meetings, so I've never seen him voted on or anything, so I don't know how that went
Is
down.
he the system?
He's the head of the system. And yes, like I
Is it
told
time
you,
for him to retire?
there's a lot of people who say that. I don't want to go on air saying it one way or the other. I honestly,
You didn't have to.
no, I've honestly actually, and this would probably surprise him, I've actually, when people are in those positions and the board is spineless, and the board says, hey, be our tyrant. If they're a tyrant, it's the board's fault. It's not his fault.
Because they don't want to have guts.
Yeah, but if you're going to say, whatever the commissioner says, we're just going to do it. The commissioner can lie by omission to us. I'm not saying he did, because I have my opinions, but
It's disinformation.
if I feel that disinformation is happening in presentations in the past, I don't know that it's happened since I've been on the board. I'm pretty well informed. I keep myself, so I bring it up. If I think they're missing something, I'm going to bring it up then. But on past watching it, I watched them with TNTP. They didn't say, hey, some of you might have problems with this because they say their curriculum is too white. Now, would that maybe be relevant to some board members? But
Yes.
Did you hear them say that to any of the
No.
board members? No. That's where I lost my trust in the Department of Education, and by virtue of that, Dr. Watson, in December of 2023, long before I had even filed for this office. Okay, I lost my trust. And they've never done anything to win that trust back. And you don't win my trust back by attacking my concerns or my points of view. Like today, what I ran on, empowering parents, I'm going to help those local school boards to be as powerful as I can help them to be. And what I've been told is that's none of my business, basically. That's not my job.
That is your job.
Thank you.
That's why we elected you.
Well, that's what I think my constituents think, and that's why I leave Topeka.
But
I leave Topeka, and I get nothing but, thank you, you're doing what we wanted you to do in that job. And I'm an elected representative, and all the Constitution says is that the State Board of Education has general supervision of the local boards. Now, it depends, that sentence is really, it's a long sentence, and it's been interpreted that we have general supervision of the schools, which is different. That cuts your relationship with those local boards. It says you don't really have a relationship with that local board. I don't interpret it that way, I didn't campaign that way, and I don't act that way.
Well, actually, though, if you have power over the schools, don't you really have then more power?
But I don't have power over the schools. No, that is truly the job of the local board. The local board, what it says in the Constitution, they maintain, they control, and they operate the schools. Now, you might think it's the superintendent that does those things, but it's not. It's the local board.
Right.
The superintendent is the person that the local board has put in place to be their administration, to do the local board's duty to maintain, control, operate the school. That is how I interpret it. If I, have somebody disagrees with me, I guess they just disagree
From a
with me.
guy that can read energy, you ought to feel your energy.
I'm sorry.
No.
I came off of a lot right
No,
now.
no, I know. Can I change the subject?
Yes, that would be good.
It is related. It is related. And that's good. I mean, I appreciate the passion. Okay? So let's talk about
Okay.
at the federal level. What do you think about disbanding the federal
The U.S.
Board of
Department.
Education so money can come to the states? What
The
do you think
U.S.
about that?
Department of
what do you
Education.
think about
I
that?
am like, so thank you. Yay.
Okay.
Thank you, President Trump. And honestly, please, senators and legislators out there, I think that our schools could be great if the parents and the teachers and the community members that are on the boards actually ran the schools and not our Department of Education. Because honestly, it's hard for me because I'm seeing boards who people are easily intimidated, and I think that a large part of the boards is intimidation because I can tell you this, there would be a lot more conversation happening in the world according to Debbie.
If Jimmy Carter formed the federal school board department
Yeah.
by executive order, so Trump should be able to disband it by executive order, right?
Well, and
Well, what do you think of that?
Well, because since it's been formed, there's been a lot of laws of funding that go to it. You've got your ESSA funds and all of these things that are tied now to that U.S. Department of Education. So it's kind of like, let's make this entity, and then let's make all these laws that fund it. Well, you take the entity away, what happens to all the laws that are
Okay.
funding it? So that's I think the problem he's coming up against.
So that's what we gotta unwind next.
Yeah, you really have to take care of these laws, and it's the same in Kansas. So I think a lot of the federal laws basically copy-paste. I just really wish that we could doge and get rid of our Department of Education.
Now, Billings, you mean your job?
No, I'm talking Department of Education. And honestly, my job is what do I do? You tell me, what do I do?
Well, it sounds like you're there, and I haven't been to a meeting yet, but it just sounds like you get steamrolled by the bureaucrats.
Okay, pretend I'm the chair. I'm the most powerful person on our board. What do I do?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
I can't either because you know what? I think what happens is Dr. Watson
you're
or the powers that
saying-
be up there say, well, this is what we need to do, and the board goes, okay.
So
That's what I see.
So you're saying you could do away with the Kansas Board of Education, have all the money just go to the school boards? Is that what you
Yeah,
just said?
I tell you what, if that was part of the deal, like if the
Right now.
Honestly, I think the way our Constitution is written would be fine. Leave the state board because I do think that general oversight is help to those local boards if we were used properly. I think we could be great, okay? But if that was how you got rid of the Department of Education, you say, well, the State Board of Education has to go with them. Right now, because like even talking to you, everybody thinks they're one and the same. And they're not. You have the Department of Education, and then you have the State Board of Education. These people are not elected. There's not one person here that answers to one constituent. These people are supposed to answer to the constituents, but what happens is a louder voice in their ear is the department.
Huh.
So the department's saying, vote this way. Well,
But the constituents want you to vote another way.
I tell you what, I don't know
And
about
then
your
you can't even
constituents,
bring
but
it up.
mine, I go home.
And you can't even bring it up because they're not following Robert's Rules of Order. You don't have a voice.
There's some things I've lost my voice on.
Wow.
And I actually, I talked to somebody I just happen to know, that's
This
a
is
judge.
mind-blowing.
That's a judge, and I said, this is part of what I said, I felt like God was telling me to push the parliamentary procedure. Just push back on the system with parliamentary procedure, and I didn't really want to. I was feeling compelled, and I did that all the way through May. Yes, it was
Those
at the
days
May
are
meeting.
over.
Well, no. The May meeting is crucial because as we were getting ready, this is June. The May meeting was crucial because as we were getting ready to go into it, and I was just like, oh my word, Lord, I don't even understand why you have me doing this. You know, I'm dead all the same. This is going nowhere. And one of the moms sent us, we have a group that we met out in the audience when I was going those years, and she sent out this law that just got passed. It's going to go into effect on July 1. And we'll see, does the Department of Education do it or not? We don't know. It's going to take our Attorney General. It's going to take our Attorney General
Cobalt.
to, yeah. And,
You
and
know,
there-
I've seen our county commissioners didn't invoke a law that the state passed, and it was to create this Citizens Commission. And this is what really frustrates me about politics, is there's two sets of rules, and some of it just is made up as we go, and you just got to live with it.
Yeah.
And don't be hey, he's politically incorrect. He's too outspoken.
Or you're too rigid.
You know,
You're rigid following the rules if you try to enforce them.
I was telling Dennis today that my grandfather was outspoken when he didn't believe in separate but equal. But are we glad that he was outspoken? And he was a judge.
Mhm.
And he was on the school board, 501, just as a school board member. And then Brown versus Board of Education happened. And then he got active, and as a school board member, he was just there, not as a lawyer or a judge, but just half a win and showing up.
Yeah.
And then he implemented the change. They named McClure School after him.
Which is so cool. That's so cool.
It is cool for me.
Yeah, and
But here's the quandary. So now we got to reverse separate but equal. So we keep all the school boards separate. So they all stay in place, but we've got to do away with, we've got too many administrations out there. And
I think that's even in the statistics. I mean, those numbers are just going up, and these are going down.
we've got to change the money. There's just not as much money. We got to change it around.
Yeah, well,
What do you got?
Oh, nope, I didn't. So I want to get back. I've been trying to get that on the agenda eventually too, but little baby steps. I will tell you that there's that law, the one that goes into effect in July.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to get back with you on the number because
Well,
I don't
let's
have a
get
handy.
this
But you want to
stuff
hear
up.
this because
Right now, this
Yes.
is breaking news.
This is breaking news.
Breaking news. Here we go.
Breaking news because it goes into effect July 1.
Tell me about
So
it.
one of the things I was pushing back on is that, and what I observed from early on is in the Robert's Rules of Things, so we got the Dear Colleague letter in February, right? That's kind of the bell that went off. We didn't have a conversation of it. So we have this Dear Colleague letter that says you have to sign that you don't have DEI in your schools in order to get federal funding. Now, don't you think the board would talk about that?
Yes, that ought to be a topic of conversation.
No, we don't. We don't talk about such things. We don't have to worry our pretty little heads about it. The
Why?
Department of Education's handling it. The Department of Education's handling it. And so I was told, I tried to call
At
special
the
meeting.
federal level.
No, here, Kansas Department of Education's taking care of it.
Okay?
Yeah, we don't have to worry our pretty little heads on the state board about that because what happened was, so that came up and I'm like, oh my word, there's a 2-week deadline. That's before our next meeting. We need a special meeting. And I just assumed that the powers that be would be calling a special meeting. So a week goes by. And I finally am like calling a couple board members, hey, we need to call a special meeting. You know there's provision for a special meeting. We need to do that. And I thought, they're just not used to using that, right? I got a call being told, you're not going to get 4 members to call a special meeting.
Well, wait a second here. So,
And I didn't.
you know, I learned something here today. I learned something. So as part of the school board at the Kansas level, I thought you were related to the Department of Education,
We are.
but you don't supervise them? Are you supposed to?
Yes.
But you make them seem like That's the system.
But they are the
Okay, I get it,
system.
I get
The
it.
system runs it.
I
We
get
don't,
it.
so,
So they're like
they need us
the
to.
chamber here in Topeka.
Okay, it's probably, there's a reason there's a term, the administrative state. It's very, where's the line? When you have somebody, a bunch of people actually going to work, 5 days a week, all month long, doing this job, and then they're supposed to come to a board who shows up that day and tell them, yay, we want to do this, no, we don't want to do that, and they're like the experts of it. And so where's that line between, we say, no, we're not going to do this, even though maybe everybody working there says, well, we need to do this, and we say no. And then, well, we have that $20,000 vote. Oh my word. I have it, so
Tell me about the $20,000 vote.
yeah, it was for the summer food program. They have basically a setup where we provide 20 grand to the radio stations, and the radio stations match that with, I think, 40 grand worth of advertising of the summer food program. And to me, it's a McVote. I don't know anything about this, but I had 2 other board members say, this seems like a waste. We have marquees. We can put things on the marquees. We could, for $150, you can get a sign. Well, actually, through your service centers, you can get signage for really cheap to advertise things. And we can advertise things in so many other ways. We've got.
Yeah, you can come on Henry McClure Live.
Yeah, and you can put it on websites. You can put it on Facebook sites. There's just a number of ways. And they said, that $20,000, that's just a waste. And this was in the time frame where. Elon Musk is up there dozing away, and we're like, let's do our part. We'll not waste 20 grand in Kansas. And so, you know what? They lost that vote. That doesn't happen very often. And I can tell you.
Doug Billings running for governor is going to have KDOSH.
Oh, good.
But what he wants to do, too, he wants to make it a cabinet position.
Good.
Yeah, I like this guy.
I did too. I like him.
Not just because he was on the show. But this is the most mind-blowing show I've ever done.
Oh, no.
No, seriously, to think of, what I'm hearing today, because I feel like I'm always fighting the system. What I hate about Shawnee County is the county government and the city government. Oh, no, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it's just too much government. We've got way too much government in our lives.
Be Wichita and just become one.
Well,
the city and the county just.
No, I've got a plan for it. See,
we have our commissioners and we have our city council, but like MABCD, they're just like all one now.
So, as a mayor, it's not just a ribbon cutting position. Even though you have a city manager, who I'm beginning to feel is incompetent. I'm beginning to feel this. He's just hiring his people,
well, that would be your administrative portion right there, right? If
yes.
you're going to listen to you, I don't know how that works for the mayor. I mean, we're a board. No one's going to listen to Debbie. I'm one voice of 10, and if there's a minority voice on that board, it's going to probably be me.
I think when I go to city council, I don't believe anybody listens to me whatsoever. And I'm trying to be the voice of the rest of us. I'll say, here's the thing about it. Topeka's vindictive. Politics is vindictive.
Okay.
They want to turn around and get you if you're speaking up. I mean, look what they did to Musk. We're going to burn his cars, scratch him, mess with his dealerships because he's pointing out the corruption. Today, my business has never been better.
And I can say that's a weird thing. When I'm in the meeting, I feel the system and I feel the disrespect. I feel that. But to be frank, the other board members are not vindictive. I have not noticed any of them being vindictive towards me.
Well, it's different when you're sitting
not even
amongst...
Not even the commissioner. Very friendly. It makes me... It's one of those things. The actions don't match.
You're probably more diplomatic than me.
I've never been called that. Thank you.
No, I'm just guessing.
I could use that today.
I'm just guessing. You should have seen the mayor. You should have seen the mayor when I asked him. I go, "Did you bring enough for everybody?"
Wow. I'm going to tell my husband that one. I'm more diplomatic than some.
Well, it's different when you're, and what I hate about our town and government is that, well, okay, they used to, at the county you could go and talk longer, but then they changed that after they got tired of listening to me, and that's okay.
Right.
But at the city council, they don't take public comment at committee meetings unless the chair says so, but the chair never says so. And I got shouted down one time by one of the chairs, and then you got 4 minutes to try to change the world. And you've got our economic development money being spent up here, and you can't even go to the meeting because it's an NGO.
July 1, that's that law. If you are a state agency, no, so that's city, I don't know, you'd have to read the law and you have whoever, but I believe it's state agencies. But if there's any state agency that has any, it says basically any entity, it's committee, subcommittee, just any entity that is representing that agency, okay, that has, and they receive public funds, required open meeting.
Okay?
And that's where we'll see. We'll see. I know. I finally get to it. What I am looking to see is in the May meeting, I pushed back on the Robert's Rules of Order and I said we should not be doing anything that has not come before this board and been voted on.
So do you know, what's the bill?
I have to find it. Oh, I'm going to have to find it. Here, let me set this stuff on my lap while I'm talking. And I'm
Use the table.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm used to having it on my lap here.
Is it a House bill, a Senate bill?
I don't even remember that. Sorry. I think it's a Senate bill. I'll find it.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah. Well, here's the 72-1138. 72-1138. And this is not that one, but this is one that talks about boards of education, meeting times, quorum, abstention from voting, general powers, legal counsel. And so you got to understand that there's a point of view that the State Board of Education is the local board for the Kansas School for the Blind and the Kansas School for the Deaf. And the local boards are required to meet once a month. So we don't do that. I actually had that pointed out to me by a parent only about maybe 2 days ago. I hadn't put that together myself, and so I tell you, I'm only as smart as the people who keep coming to me, but I listen to them and I hear them, and that makes a big difference.
You know, that's cool because that's what happens on my show. I've got so much Shawnee County Doge stuff that I gotta print. I hear from all the whistleblowers that talk about how they hate coming to work or how they're abused by supervisors. And I know now more about how really things are going on than I want to know.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that because it's overwhelming. It truly is overwhelming. I am starting
You want to
to
hear a good one?
Sure.
So there's a new garage there's a maintenance facility that they have that does maintenance work on vehicles. Well, they're each
City vehicles?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're each allotted a certain amount of money. Well, what they're doing, and I got to understand this. I'll get one of the city council people to help me do this policy and finance.
Okay.
I think it's Spencer, Marcus Miller, and somebody else. I'll think about her name. But they'll charge $600 to that department for an oil change, that you can get done for $100, and then
Or less.
and then they can use that money. It's like recycled through, and I got to understand this. Is this the Senate bill?
That's it.
Can I have this or? Can I
Sure.
scan it?
Yeah. No. I'll just text me that number so I'll reprint it. It's just off the revised.
Okay, hang on. Oh, I got to go down and write a law.
Oh, really?
Yeah, John Akala let me write a law to keep home prices. The day you buy your house, that's what it will be assessed at until you sell it.
Oh, my son would like that because apparently he's paying taxes on a price way higher than what he built his house for.
Well, so it's just not fair.
No, it didn't make sense to me either, but
No, it's a scam to raise money. In fact, they did a big thing last night about ready to serve. They're charging people $50 to have a water meter that isn't being used.
why is it not being used?
Because the house is vacant, they didn't pull it. It's a scam.
I have to think about that. You left me alone on the air.
Well, say something, I'll be right back, I have to get my glasses. I'm sorry.
Okay, well,
This
this
is very
the national,
casual.
This is the national sex education standards that we do not follow in Kansas. Very bad. This is woke. As a matter of fact, they have like 3 underwriters, if you will, advocates for youth answer, sex ed, but SECUS, if you study SECUS, they'll get you a pop-up screen to ask you for money. Research SECUS.
Oh, wow. This,
Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
You want to read it out loud?
No, I want to analyze it.
Okay.
I don't want to.
You don't want to just off the cuff?
No,
That's what
no,
Debbie
no.
does.
You
You
wanna read
analyze it? Well, no, you go ahead and you make a special show just about this, and then you can keep me in mind, because here's what came to me when I'm saying we have a board of 10. Through our Constitution, that is a representative board of the 10 districts of Kansas, and that's how they want us to affect the state level of education. Now, when we're not having a conversation on major things that are happening in DC and federal funding, and we're not even having the conversation because the Department of Education is going to handle it. You'll not find it on our agenda. You will not find it in our votes.
This is very complicated.
Yes, it's very complicated, but what I made them say out loud, because this is just bad habits. I think this comes down to just bad habits. I don't think it's a nefarious, these people have a bad agenda, okay? It's just how we've been doing business for a very, very, very long time, and I'm the new person on the block who doesn't know that's not how it works, okay? Debbie, you just don't know how it works.
And I didn't mean to leave you alone on my show.
That's okay. I looked back that way. But anyway, but the thing is that they said it out loud. They said, the policy committee, I pushed back on the system, and they sent it to the policy committee, and the policy committee came down, and they said that the chair and the vice chair are able to act on behalf of the board in between meetings. That's a lot of power on 2 of the 10 districts in Kansas being represented, and 8 of the districts in Kansas not being a part of the conversation. It's not even like they're going out and having a conversation that's very important to us, and then bringing it back to us and saying, okay, we made this policy, we made this decision, we're coming to you to have our policy or our decision ratified by the board. Yay, nay. They're not even doing that. They may or may not even be telling us meetings, what's coming out of their meetings. I've actually been told, well, I'm not sure I can share that with you.
What?
Yeah, I don't even remember what subject was. Something that's in the works or doing that's going to be great, and they couldn't share it with me right
And
yet.
it's just we have a city councilman that tells me, he goes, I wish I was in on everything, because there's so much stuff that goes on that I don't know. But this is...
Okay, so that goes, well, that's city. Dang it. You're going to have to read into that, because I think that's state only.
Well, but I gotta see...
But it happens at the state.
Yeah.
And how deep are we going to go? I mean,
Well,
literally,
listen.
are we going to hold our chairs and vice chairs of all of our state organizations, not just the Board of Education, our local school boards they're established by the state. So the thing is are we going to require that decisions that are being made that affect that board, are they going to be a matter of open meetings?
Well, so that's what I gotta figure out, is I gotta make sure, like, where does home rule, like, trump the state law? You know,
Okay.
it's a catch-all. When the city wants to do their own thing, they can do it under home rule.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, and I hadn't even, until just this moment, thought about it as related to the local school boards, and I haven't, like you said, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, but they are established by the state constitution. That's how they got their establishment. So I would hope, and I just hope this for my local board members that I know, that they've been empowered by this too, because what this empowers is the board being informed. This empowers the board being involved in the decisions in everything. And you know what? I think that they are still so intimidated by the powers that be. I'm going to still lose the votes, but at least the board made the vote and lost. I really felt today,
this was a rough day for you, I feel it.
A little bit,
Yeah.
Well, not even a rough day. It was just a rough couple hours, honestly. And it's just
the
because
system.
it's just because it's because I see so clearly what needs to be pushed back on, and I see the system being heard, and not the people I've been talking to. So in the situation today, I'm talking to the parents a lot. I mean, I've taken the time, met with them and stuff, and I know that there's at least one other board member that has talked to them like 1,000 billion times more than I have even, okay? But, so when that board member even just basically said, I'll do what the system says, and not what the parents wanted, that, it's still, because that's who I was on the phone with when I came over, is what the parent, because I said, hey, I just need to know, did I misread you? Did you not want it the way I thought you did? And I had to have that conversation, because I thought I can be mistaken and not represent what the people involved want that I'm representing. And I think that they're okay. I was the one that was okay, but I did represent them, and that's all that mattered. I can represent them and lose, and that's okay, and especially if they're okay with it.
So my takeaway right now is that the state school board feels powerless over the Department of Education in Topeka, or in the
No,
state.
Debbie feels powerless. The state board.
Debbie feels powerless.
I cannot speak for the state board, okay? I speak for Debbie, District 10. Okay? So that being said, I have talked to a number of other board members, and what's interesting to me is when I was just a constituent, they agreed with me on everything I'm saying. I mean, it was just like, except for Michelle. Well, Michelle and I have had great conversations on school choice, okay? So, and I would say, I'm over here on, I want school choice, and she's over here like, the dangers of school choice, and honestly, after 3 years of talking with her, she's brought me this far. Because I get what she's saying, and I understand. So I think it's
But
more
she's
nuanced.
not moved?
I don't think she's moved. I don't think so, but she's been there longer than I have. So but my goal isn't to move her. My goal is to be where I think I need to be, and I moved not because she made me move. I moved because what she said was reasonable, and so it changed me. And so maybe I just need to be more reasonable for her on that conversation. But off of that conversation, while I was just a constituent and coming up to the meetings for like 4 years because I missed the cutoff to run, so I talked to the La Paz State Board member and I said, oh, can I take your place? Okay, I'll get around to that. And I didn't realize June 1 was a cutoff because I'm not political. So it was after June 1, and I was going to get on there because I thought he was actually on the next 2-year rotation. And one of the commissioners who's
Well, did he run again, or did he bow out?
No, he bowed out.
Okay.
He bowed out, but
How many people did you run against?
a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent.
So it's partisan.
Oh yes, it's
Okay.
partisan at the state level, and I can tell you our policy committee is made up of 2 Democrats, 1 Republican. This new committee, task force that they just made is made up of 2 Democrats and Republican. So it really doesn't behoove me, I don't think, to be a Republican on this board.
Well, if I were going to define myself, I'm a Make America Great man.
That's true.
I'm a patriot. I'm unvaccinated. I'm unapologetic about it. you know?
I'm MAGA.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm MAGA.
Let's get God in the school,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. And so, oh my word, that's a whole other conversation, but,
You know, I think next time you're up here, let's get you let's do a before and after show.
let's,
If you have time.
if you don't mind, let's head for August on that one.
Okay.
Because on the after, I am heading from Minnesota. Like literally from Topeka. That's the plan. So,
That's a good place to be.
that's where I grew up.
What part?
Litchfield?
The Minnesota, that 10,000 lakes?
Yeah, land of 10,000 lakes and 10 times more mosquitoes.
They're
So,
big.
yeah, and they're very big. They're the Minnesota state bird. But I'm somewhere, if you know where, like some of the larger cities, St. Cloud and Hutchinson, and then Minneapolis, of course, over to Wilmer, where they crisscross is where Litchfield is. And that's where I grew up. So anyway.
This is home for me.
Yeah, this is home
Okay.
for my mother. My mother grew up in Junction City. So, I mean, and I told
Close
you,
enough.
my third great grandmother, whose father fought in the Revolutionary War, is buried here in Topeka. So
I'm
for
a
those
son of the
you,
American Revolution.
yeah, and I've quit
Are you a
DAR.
daughter?
I was a daughter of the American Revolution. I'm not involved in that now, but I've done like 100 applications between DAR, SAR, CAR. I'm still involved with CAR, with Children of the American Revolution.
Our cousin was Anthony Wayne.
Hmm.
He was Mad Anthony that fought with Lafayette.
Oh, okay. I have,
But I like having a cousin
my biggest claim to
named
fame is
Mad
Frederick
Anthony.
Bicking.
Is what?
Frederick Bicking. He owned the paper mill that printed the money that paid the Valley Forge soldiers. And he was,
That's pretty good.
yeah, that was something.
Hey, payday.
And, yeah, payday. And but I do have a cousin who from that line who's researching my Jarrett line, because I actually think that grandfather was killed in the Revolutionary War, and I do not think it was remembered. But he's for sure died. He was in Germantown, and then they moved to White Marsh. Same time that everybody after Germantown was lost, they went to White Marsh, and then he died at White Marsh. And he had 8 children. The youngest was 1 year old, and I thought, we'll see. But I think he gave it. And that grandma was a widow for a lot of years. And then Frederick Bicking and his wife were heavily involved.
Now, this seems like a big name. Tell me about Frederick Bicking.
Frederick Bicking, just that he had the paper mill and
Oh, okay.
yeah. And so when his wife died,
Hey, it's been a long day for me.
no, me too. But
I'm on day 3 of
well, these
fast.
grandparents married.
Oh,
That's how. So I think I can prove her as a patriot too. She can be proved as a Revolutionary War patriot. So but they got married, and so I do think that there was a strong family relationship there. So we'll see what this cousin can find out for me.
my cousin Tom McClure has done a lot more research about it than I've done.
Yeah.
But I'll
Well, do
tell
you
you
know
something.
Alan Paulin?
No.
Somebody out there knows Alan Paulin. He's from Topeka. He's my cousin.
All right.
Yeah, I'm very proud of him. He's a good guy.
Well, I'm out of gas.
Are you out of gas? I'm kind of getting there.
You've
I
got to
felt
drive.
like there was more. You guys need to.
No, keep talking.
I do want you
I
guys
just-
to do. You guys are the foot soldiers.
I was
I'm
giving
not.
you a chance to
I know.
wind it down, but let's keep going.
No, you can't waste these moments. You guys, you are the foot soldiers. I'm going to tell you where the battles are.
Okay.
Okay. U.S. Department of Education, you can Google search these. You can find them online. May 7, 2025. A letter went out. It's called the 4-page memo. It deals with ESEA section 8532, unsafe school choice option. You can have that.
Okay.
Okay?
And I'll scan this and I'll post it all up on a blog and I'll post it all on Facebook. Okay.
Sounds great. This is, I believe, the Trump administration's push towards school choice. Okay, this is what I think they're using towards that. And you just have to read it for yourselves, but it says all children deserve to attend a safe school in which they can focus on mastering the literacy, mathematics, other skills necessary for success. And then it says the provision requires that each state establish and implement a statewide policy requiring that a student in either of these circumstances, basically that if the school is defined as persistently dangerous. They're required to have a definition of that, and then in the definition, implement it. We had a definition. It's on the Kansas Department of Education website, so just Google search KSDE, Kansas definition, persistently dangerous schools. You will find it's utterly ridiculous,
How many
by
there
my
are?
opinion.
Right. But about
We have none. I don't even know if it's possible for us to have a persistently dangerous school by this definition. Okay, this is what I tell
Because it's
people.
vague?
No, it's very, like, if you had little town, Smallville, Kansas, had 100 kids in your school, and a gunman came in 2022, mowed half of them down, and then in 2023, a different gunman came and mowed the other half down, that is not a persistently dangerous school by our definition. Okay?
Well, that makes no sense.
You have to, okay, I'll read that. This is, Kansas defines a school as
And
persistently
you guys are
dangerous.
educating us?
Kansas defines a school as, but this, who knows this is here until President Trump puts out a letter, and I think, oh, we're supposed to have one of those. Nobody brings this to my attention. Kansas defines a school as persistently dangerous if they, for 3 consecutive years, have 1+ students expelled for a federal gun-free school violation, and 2% or 5 students, whichever is greater, utilize the individual option. Now, I was asking all over today, I don't know what an individual option is. I Google searched it, I looked on KSDE, I could not find the meaning of individual option. On the fly, what I was told is the individual option
By
is...
who?
Don't want to say right now. 2 people,
Okay, are they board members or administrators?
both.
Okay.
And people who should know. Okay. So individual option, all right, as defined by the powers that be that said it to me. Now, hopefully I asked for this to get on the agenda. Hopefully it'll get on the agenda. Hopefully we'll have a conversation. Hopefully we'll make some changes to this definition, okay? But the individual option, I was told, and they both have the same basic definition, is that these are children who opted to leave the school because it was persistently dangerous.
But just because one kid had a gun violation, which that's really
Well,
the only thing
that's
that's
number
defined.
1. That's number 1.
Yeah, but number 2, we don't know what it is.
Well, but let's just say it is that. Do you realize how are you going to have 2% or 5 students, whichever is greater, utilize the individual option when the individual option's dependent on this happening? That's what I couldn't, I was like, I'm on the fly, and I'm like, that, I don't even know how to respond to that. I was like, it's like saying, I'm going to define the word exit by using the word exit.
Okay.
An exit's an exit. An exit's an exit. Don't you know what an exit is? Because I just told you, an exit's an exit. You have a persistently dangerous school, if 2% or 5 students, whichever is greater, utilize the individual option, which cannot be utilized unless you have a persistently dangerous school.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
that is how I was explained.
but if somebody comes in and kills 10 kids one year and 10 kids the next year,
It's not 3 consecutive years. So we have to have 3 consecutive years, and it's not even, look, it's and underline. So it's not even just 3 consecutive, it has 3 consecutive years of number 1. And 3 consecutive years of number 2.
which we can't figure out what it is.
And 3 consecutive years of number 3, which is 2% of 5 students are expelled for violence-related offenses, including crimes against persons which constitute the commission of a felony, including murder, aggravated assault, battery, criminal threat. How child-friendly
I
is your
think if
radio?
this is going on 1 year, it's a red flag.
There's a whole list of them. It goes into things that maybe kids don't need to hear. Yeah, it's just, but that's the definition. So, according to that letter, the ESEA Section 8532 Unsafe School Option, there's 2 ways that you can implement this.
Should I write that down, or are you leaving that?
I gave it to you.
Oh, okay.
I have my copy.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, you've got it. So there was 2 ways. So it's number 1 and number 2 there. There was 2 ways you could implement ESEA Section 8532. One was our definition. until something changes on that, that's gonna do you no good, no good. I can't even, if somebody can come up to me and tell me how we can find a school that fits all of those, please let me know. Please let me know, because they really, really need to be on that persistently dangerous school list. But that said, the other way is to become a victim of a violent criminal offense as determined by state law while in or on the grounds of a public elementary school or secondary school that the student attends. That's how you can go directly to this, because your safeguard is not through the people of Kansas, it is through the Federal Department of Education. That's, or, well, not, yeah, the United States Department of Education wrote this letter. The ESEA section 8532 will protect your child more than our Kansas Department of Education definition. And I will say this, Dr. Watson, I did pin him down and say, wait a minute, this individual option, are you saying if a child experience something dangerous in the school, they can just leave that school, that they have to have a provision of something else? And as I understood him, he said no. The individual option was only available for a persistently dangerous school. That's how I understood it. So it'll be very good to know, and you know, when you've had time to sleep on something. So maybe I heard him wrong, maybe he said something wrong. He's going to have a month now, hopefully come back and talk about this, because it was Dr. Watson who brought this to our attention and said, we will need to talk about this on the agenda, and that was before May. So it has not been on the agenda in May or June, and I asked for it today to be on the agenda in July.
Okay, so Dr. Watson's a commissioner.
Yes.
How many commissioners are there from the Board of Education?
I don't know how, well, there's one commissioner, but of course he has deputy commissioners, and I don't know how many deputy commissioners there are. I don't even know.
This just sounds like salaries out of salaries out of salaries.
Well, it's the same as superintendents and deputy superintendent, deputy superintendent, deputy superintendent. When you can have like your, I've heard stories from the local board level that they get so frustrated.
Well, here's
by
the thing,
administrative
everybody,
stuff.
so if you're gonna run for office, you're for lower taxes. Well, the mayor can't really just lower taxes. You're gonna have to affect change at a state level to get things done.
Enforce that July 1 law.
Well,
Enforce it because transparency
But I'm
is
saying,
key.
by, if we can do the Homestead Act of 2025, where houses are appraised based on the market, what a buyer will pay and what a seller will sell.
Right.
And then another way to do it is to shrink how much property tax goes to schools. And the only way you can do that is really by having less administration. You gotta, we got, like Shawnee County.
Or just have accountability, because when you get all this deferred maintenance, we're real estate people. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a school bond because we have all this deferred maintenance. It's like, didn't you have money to maintain your property the last 10 years?
Well, what I'm getting at is Shawnee County ought to have one administration for all the schools. All the school boards stay in place.
I have to think about that.
Yeah, think about it. You know, a guy that
So you're saying like multiple local school boards would hire one superintendent together?
We have one superintendent to administrate all the schools. The school boards stay the same. Every school district gets their own school board. That doesn't change.
Right.
But you don't have all these, you only have one administration for the buying, for the,
We kind of have that, actually. I would, so, and
we
it
don't
gets really
have that.
hard.
We don't have that we have 501, we have Shawnee Heights, and we have all their administration. So how do we have it?
Okay, so, and I'm not so familiar with your area, like Wichita's big, right? So
Right.
we've got 259. Okay, 259 is most all Wichita and then some, okay?
But is it one school board?
It's it's one school board, one USD, one school board, one superintendent, many schools
You
and
have it at home,
principals.
we don't have it here.
You don't have that here? That doesn't make
No.
sense to me.
We've got an administration for all our school boards, because of white flight. We had all the after Brown versus Board, everybody went out to the county, the white folk. They went out to the county and started Seaman, Shawnee Heights,
Are they in a
Washburn
different
Roll.
USD?
Yes.
Okay, but they're just in a different USD then, so, but they have a local board too. Every USD has one local board.
Yeah, but I just want to have, in Shawnee County, we can have one administration run all the school boards.
Okay, now, the
This
purpose
is-
for that,
Is
Well-
to cut down cost. Look,
I could, okay, I could see.
you've got
I could see
efficiency.
the pluses or minuses of both. And here's the thing, because.
If it's good enough for Wichita, it's good enough for Shawnee
No,
County.
but I don't think it's good in Wichita,
Well.
honestly. And not that, no, I'm not dogging 259. I think they do pretty well for having such a huge district, right?
Well, so
And very
is it
populated.
Wichita or Sedgwick County?
It's Wichita, pretty
Okay.
much Wichita. But you can understand, these are not set by city boundaries. They are not set by county boundaries. The USDs are their own little map. Okay, so like there are 3 state board members that share a part of 259. Okay, now Betty Arnold, she has other districts besides 259, but she is mostly 259. That she's that little circle around Wichita, right? And it kind of catches a few other districts, but it's mostly Wichita. Now my district, I have Western Central County. Mostly that's 259. You've got some Goddard,
But
you've
you
got
have
some
another
Mays,
school boards?
and then Dennis kind of comes down and touches.
But are you only 259?
No,
How many schools?
I have like 35.
Oh, wow.
35 USD districts. And they're different. So you've got the little ones have different needs than the city ones, right? They're just all like, they have their own personalities, and that's where I guess when the school choice of things, truly, if our local boards were smaller and represented their community, you could truly have a lot more school choice, because you probably have areas in Topeka that that is the woke neighborhood. You're going to see Black Lives Matter signs all over the place in that neighborhood. And then you have the other one where you're going to see the half bathtubs and it's Catholic, right?
Well, let me ask you.
Because just different neighborhoods tend to be different personalities.
With K-Doge, with just the idea where I thought by cutting down the amount of administrations, it would be a way to save money. What's your best way to save money from the school system?
I honestly, if you can get rid of the Department of Education, and let
What's
those
their
local.
expense?
They have like an $8 billion, I think the
In
state.
Kansas?
Well, no, that's their full, Kansas, from what I heard today, is they have about 20 million from Kansas money. And they're full, it doesn't add up. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you straight up front, the money is not my wheelhouse. I have made a team of 3 of the most brilliant minds in money that I can find. They are not able to publicly acquire the information they need in order to track everything that
That's
I
right.
would want. And so, like, literally,
So
I
you
believe we're
can't-
doing Open Records Act requests
Cora.
right now. Yeah, we're trying to do that. And you'll see me in the meeting, yesterday's meeting, if you go on the video. I just say, hey, if you guys could just get me this, then we don't have to Cora, my people don't have to Cora it, I can just give that to them. And they said, we don't have it. Now, that to me is a scapegoat. How does a
You should
scapegoat?
ask some of my research people to make this what you want.
Okay, well, I don't know if I have it.
That's
You're
okay.
gonna, I have a lot of papers, can you tell? Okay, yeah, it's right here.
So let's hear it.
Okay, this is what my team has said. We need all 286 district CPA files in working file format, not PDF, so XLS or.
Yeah, so you can manipulate it.
So they can manipulate and find out what went where and.
So
do
then,
their-
hang on, let's go
Do
back.
their money things
Get
that I
into
don't do.
256. What are those?
286 districts. There's 286 district, USDs.
See,
In Kansas.
we only have 105 counties.
Yeah, so but that's what I'm telling you, that it is their own map. These are the USD. That's why you might have 3 different USDs in Topeka, and they're serving 3 different boards. But the beauty of that is if this board reflects your values more, or the superintendent, by rights, if the superintendent runs the schools more to your liking, you can move to that district and away from this district that isn't. That's more of a school choice thing right
So
there.
here's what I'm saying. If this is $1, and every school board needs this, well, one administration, you don't have to have 3 administrations deciding to buy this. We only have one administration sending this to all the schools.
Well, you know what, I see what you're saying, because now, if we had
Economy of
one
scale.
USD, if we only had one USD, we'd only have
Economy of scale.
We'd only have our Department of Education, would probably be our whole supervisor, our superintendent.
So the $20 million that the Department of Education has,
And
that
say
comes from
roughly
property
loosely.
tax.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the state funds, those are state, I don't even think that's not even right. That is not right, because I just heard that number today, and I was referencing the budget of our U.S. Department of Education is about $8 billion.
$8 billion.
$8 billion. How that breaks down
All right.
is,
$8
you know what,
billion.
I wish my people were here. They could tell you. I'll try to have an answer from you.
Hey, let's get them on the show next
No
time.
doubt, no doubt. They would help you a lot more.
Okay, so now what was it? 256.
I was told 20 million. So put down the number 20 million today. That state. What I'm thinking they're saying, because see, some things are in the words.
But the $8 billion is Kansas, right?
Right, and the federal funding is only about maybe 10%. You know who you need to get on here.
Who's that?
Dave Trobert, Kansas Policy Institute. They know these numbers, and they would be like, oh yeah, Debbie doesn't know. Don't ask Debbie. So the 20 million, my guess is that is what is paid to us by the legislature, not the property taxes, because the property taxes is probably the biggest bulk of that $8 billion, in my opinion, because I've been told that 10% of it is federal. So what is that, 800,000 would be about federal, and then the rest of it is our state. So if they're telling me 20 million is state, it has to be only one piece of the state.
So it was 256 USDs.
286. 286 districts.
All right, so let's
And
get
I
them on.
thought, I hope that's going
And I'll
to.
quit interrupting.
No, you're doing great. I always caveat this. This is not my wheelhouse, and it's very.
The numbers are my wheelhouse.
Yes, and it's not mine. And so it's very, very hard to be represented by somebody who's like, I don't know, it's a big number. You know what I'm saying? I just don't have.
But I
that.
can research all this.
Right, and that would be awesome. And I will put you in touch with, if they say it's okay, with a couple of my team members.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, can you talk to them for a minute? I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And if you want to break and call it a day, that's fine. But
Well, I think actually I've covered now everything. I think.
all right, we'll talk to them for just a second. I drank some coffee and
Okay.
a lot of water today.
Oh, okay. Let's see what we got. The Kansas Persistently Dangerous Schools. I guess I'm only going to visit this again because I did. We have a really great school. It's privately funded, mostly privately funded, but it's not USD funded, in Wichita that takes children who have been expelled. And he's, the director of that school is just very, very brilliant dealing with children. So obviously, if you're dealing with a persistently dangerous school, I'm thinking he would know how that's defined. And if you have a child who's suffering in a persistently dangerous school, he would know like what kinds of things those parents and those families would need. And so he kind of got into so I'm just going to go back over my notes. Suspension, there's long-term suspensions versus expulsions. He was talking about the difference in that there, and then there's stuff specific to Wichita. And one of the things that we were discussing is that this definition must be victim-oriented, involve the parents. The definition will have to be victim-oriented, otherwise it's meaningless to the parents. You were fast!
Well, I'm on day 3 of a fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of a long-term fast, so I'm just drinking a lot of water. Every time I'm hungry,
Drinking water.
Yeah, drinking water. Go ahead.
No, I don't. I don't think I've ever fasted in my life, which is really sad. I don't think I ever have. It says, how is it, so I was just reading my notes. I wrote notes from talking to this very, very educated person, and I said, how is it we push student choice and empowering students, yet not with, and he was actually talking about, we talk about empowering the students in gender identification and all this stuff, that these students have to be empowered, and yet, we're not willing to say that they should be empowered to pick the school they feel safe in. Do you understand what his logic was? I thought that was actually
No, I don't
profound.
get his logic.
You do not?
Logic.
Okay, he said, and he's very conservative, okay? He's saying the schools, the powers that be, the system, is pushing the idea that we're supposed to be empowering these students through their own identification, how they identify themselves.
Well,
what
yeah,
their
but
gender
if they
is, and
can
all
do that, they can pick what school they want to go to.
That's his point.
Yeah, I got
He
it.
said,
I
he
got
said,
it.
if we're empowering them for that, but we're not willing to empower them to say, I don't feel good in this school, I don't want this school, you know, that's a problem. And I thought that was a very good point that needs conversation. These are all things that need conversation in my mind. Just, again, there are
To
people
me,
on
I'm
that
sorry,
board.
I'm just uneducated, but there's only two genders.
Yeah, if we, well, amen, I'll be saying that.
Okay.
That I'm one of 10 on that board, right?
Right.
But I think the most of 10 of us agree there's male and female. So if we're here for the children, then we must hear from them. De-escalation training, he said we need more in our schools in de-escalation training. I do think they have some of that.
What, free thinking?
No, de-escalation, helping the teachers know how to respond to these kids. So, and now, we didn't get down into the weeds of this, but when I have parents complaining to me not parents, well, it's a parent, it's complaining her daughter's a teacher and her daughter goes home bruised from school. Because the teachers can get beat up in school.
No, wait, the daughter?
No, okay, it's my hairdresser, her daughter's a teacher, okay? And she said, my daughter goes home beat up.
And her daughter's
With
the
reasons.
teacher,
Her daughter's a teacher,
and the kids hit her.
yeah. So we have this lawlessness that's pervasive in our schools, and so obviously, I think there's teachers that maybe don't feel safe, there's students that don't feel safe, and we're not really addressing this through our persistently dangerous school definition. And what I'm hearing back is, well, we don't have anything. If somebody at the Department of Education wants me to shut up on a subject, what they will tell me is that is not any of your business. You are on the State Board of Education, you have no power over that, you don't have any control over that, you only control accreditation and teacher licensure. That's what they'll tell you. So basically shut up on anything else. But they can talk about anything else. You know, the sex education stuff, we don't tell the schools what their curriculum is.
Who does?
The local boards.
Okay.
Yeah, the local boards have control of that. Now, you know what? I heard back from local boards, thank you for having that conversation, because you know what? We didn't know what to do with that. And that's where we can have that general supervision. We can be having conversations and help them kind of know how to navigate something. We should be there to help them, and that's where the focus at the Department of Education is fully on superintendents. I am telling you, when we campaign, we're supposed to get up and meet all the superintendents and campaign to the superintendents. They may not even be my constituent.
Can I change the subject for
Yeah.
a minute? So as a business guy, we got 286.
Ish USDs.
Okay, so, and I'm gonna double check this, but I
Yeah.
think,
Do.
like Brenda Dietrich, who was head of 437,
Okay.
made $368,000 a year?
That's superintendent.
Yeah,
I was going to
superintendent.
say the local board members generally don't make
A
anything.
superintendent.
The superintendent, yeah.
So what I wanna do is have less Brenda Dietrichs
I
out of that
got you.
286.
I've got you.
How could we, because then that will help bring property tax down. You're trying to
I know what
educate
you're
the
saying.
kids. Now, you're trying to educate the kids and give them, and feed them spiritual food and good food and, and
I can
good,
tell you they put that in the law, that
Good
the local
ideas.
boards have to hire a superintendent. They've made that a law.
Well, yeah, but we can also
Okay,
consolidate the,
I'm gonna go to an extreme for you.
okay, go.
We have one USD. So now we only have one superintendent, okay?
In the state,
In the whole state.
okay,
We can make that really cheap.
okay?
One superintendent over all the schools, okay? You have just taken away the ability of 286 USDs to reflect the personality of their community through their local board. You've kind of taken the voice of your Topeka schools
Okay, but
and
you're-
given it to the whole state.
You're missing what I'm trying to say. So,
Okay.
the
Well, it's a
superintendent,
great conversation.
but the superintendent doesn't, decide what the curriculum's gonna be.
I think they probably do. I'm not on local school board, I'll bet you so.
But the school board's supposed to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so all I'm trying to say is there's got to be economy of scale of superintendents. You know, we could have 100 superintendents that cover the state, so we leave the school boards intact. It's separate but equal. So you keep, all
So,
the school boards are intact. You don't take away one school board whatsoever, so they can
I think you would still be paying all these superintendents, and here's why. Let's just, in your world, in Chuck world, okay? We have one superintendent over the state. We keep all 286 USDs.
In whose world?
In your world.
Henry world.
Henry. Oh, sorry, Henry.
Who are you mad at named Chuck?
No, I have a friend Chuck has the same last name.
McClure?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, he's in Wichita. My
All right,
friend does
Chuck
that.
Earl, that's
Yeah,
all.
and in Henry world. No, let's go Henry
I
world.
like Henry world.
Yeah, I like Henry world. So we have one district.
No, you're,
No, I'm sorry. We have 286 districts, and they all share the same, basically superintendent. So basically the commissioner at this point, right?
okay. See where this goes.
Okay. So the commissioner's overseeing now all these districts. You know what he's going to do? He's going to hire a deputy commissioner, 286 of them, to deal with that district. Is probably, that's in Debbie world what I think
But
would
why
happen.
can't the principal of every school, like, put in a request for what they need in supplies and, you know, the economy scale of buying toilet paper, toilet bowl cleaner, floor stripper, you know,
I would go
we
the
need
other
light bulbs.
direction. I'd go the other direction. Instead of 286 USDs, and this would be just a thought out loud. I'm thinking out loud, not, this is nothing I'm.
We're just having a
We're just
conversation.
having a conversation here, okay? So don't put this in the newspaper. Debbie thinks this is what we should do. I'm just thinking out loud. I think what you're going for is the local board controls the school as they should. And why do we have so many levels of administration?
Exactly.
So then,
Bingo.
the way to get the levels of administration down is to probably make more local boards that run, like, imagine, just go in imagination world with me. Let's imagine that every school, how can you break this down? Every school, let's go as extreme as possible. Every school has its own local board. Every school. So you've got kids in the elementary school, the middle school, and the junior high and high school, okay? So you actually have representation by 4 boards. You would almost have to do that to get away from the higher level
Are
administration of
there
those
enough
levels.
volunteers? So what I'm saying
It would
is
save you a lot of money
you
if
work,
you got a lot of volunteers.
you gotta work on, so we're working within the system. I'm just trying to get it to where we don't need to pay so many administrators to get toilet paper, erasers,
Right,
paper,
right.
just the purchasing, how to get,
Yeah, the superintendent, so right now the level you have is the superintendent, then the principal, right? So what, and then is the commissioner. So that's kind of like, and we talked about the chain of command before. So I have a whole different idea in my mind of chain of command than what I heard what I hear up here in Topeka, okay? My idea is I represent 4 senatorial districts. In my State Board of Education, District 10 covers 4 senatorial districts, okay?
Who are your senators?
Oh, don't tell me to say that. I don't know.
It's
I
Masterson.
got Larry
or-
Alley. Ty Masterson is east of me.
Okay.
So I don't believe he's, because my district does go into Butler County, but I think he is the other part of Butler County. So he butts right up to me. I think he's in Jim Porter's. But I have Chase Blasey. I have Larry Alley, I think is a senator. See, I get the senators and the representatives mixed up. Renee, maybe? I don't know. I'm sorry. Again, not very political here. But I have 4 senatorial districts, and actually, I did, in January, reach out to all 4 of them because I wanted to meet them in person, but they're in session. And I haven't reached out to them again since their session went away, but I had to learn what being in session was. I had a big learning curve. I have learned so much since January, but anyway, so I have 4 of those, so that's who I represent. And then within that, I have my 35 USDs. And I don't have the complete USD in all my districts. Some I do, but some I don't. Some are shared with other districts, right? So if you were to take and divide the USDs down into the cities, into the county, more like that, you would still have your superintendent, because the superintendent over the city schools is overseeing 20 schools maybe.
But why couldn't the principal ask the commissioner for more toilet paper? Why does it have to be a superintendent?
I see what you're saying. I honestly think that they probably earn their keep. I don't. Obviously, you could not make the commissioner be 286 people. They have a job, right? So what you would have to do is just.
Couldn't we empower the principals then to order supplies?
Right. Well, but go make those. If you want to empower those principals, basically they're your new superintendents. I think you would have to have a local board for every, like a parent-teacher organization, and you'd have to have it open to the community. But that board, every school would have to become its own USD.
No.
Yeah, I just don't see.
All right, let's think about
it's complex. Yeah, let's sleep on this one.
Because
or
we're not
the
looking
local
at,
boards could just pay less.
we're not looking at it the same way. So let's get apples to apples.
Yeah.
But we gotta cut the show down.
Yeah.
I got calls coming in.
Yeah, I heard.
You gotta get.
To Nebraska.
Yes. And
I got grandbabies waiting for me.
I'm maybe a little low energy today because of the fasting.
Fasting, and I'm sorry, it sounded like, I hate to end the show sounding like a flake.
No,
But,
you're not
yeah.
flaky one bit.
A little bit.
No, you.
But that's okay. I like to think out loud. I like to process out loud.
See, what I need to do as a salesman,
Yeah.
I need to think about it, how to speak in your language. Because I'm not selling it. I don't think as a salesman I'm making your point. I'm not able to.
Oh, I'm not making my point. Just look how I win those votes.
No, I'm not making my point.
But anyway, what's really great about your show is.
One thing?
No, but this is what I find really great, is I know that you have an audience, you have people who want to see you, and we just sit down and talk. I had a reporter call me, and I could tell she really wanted to record me, and I said, no, I'm not willing to be. And I said, I'll just sit and talk to you. And she goes, most people want to be recorded so they can sit there and edit what they said. And I'm like, no, I'll sound like a flake, or I'll sound smart on my own merit in the moment, and what you see is what you get.
You know, a friend of mine, I got to get him in here. His name's Tyler Weibel. He used to work for 437, and when he explains it his way, it just makes so much sense.
And he's a superintendent?
No, he's a general contractor.
Oh, he's a general contractor.
But he did a lot of work within 437.
Okay.
And
okay.
he was a bus driver. He was a maintenance guy.
Yeah, I feel really inadequate to answer
But
how you get rid of all those.
I'll get him on the
layers.
show, have him explain it, and then I'll email you.
That sounds
the
like
show.
a plan. Then I'll be more educated.
All right, when's the next board meeting?
In July, the second Tuesday, Wednesday. In
Okay,
July.
and it's open to the public.
It is. And if you guys could be there, I mean, it's just, when you see
I'm
a
gonna
smile
come.
out there, well, when you see a smile out there, it really means a
Well,
lot.
unless I'm into Kansas City, my daughter's taking a little trip, and I have to go to Kansas City and catch it.
I can tell you guys, if you really want to kind of, I don't know, some people watch As the World Turns or something like that, but honestly, if you watch the very start and the very end of most of our meetings are pretty poppin'.
Well, my head was
Especially April.
exploding over Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes, and ask your local board about that, but I had one local board member, I told you, she was told, nope, we don't do points of order.
All right, so look, if I ran out of gas on this, we'll make it up on the next show. Henry McClure Live, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks,
Thank you. Hey,
Henry, not Chuck.
Henry, not Chuck. Hey, and if nobody's told you they love you today, I love y'all.